Praise the living God. Today, I was praying in tongues and then I remembered something very interesting. Now, this is something that has happened a number of times while I was praying in tongues, and I had just forgotten about it. But today, I remembered it, so I said, let me talk about it. Now, before I get into talking about it, let me give you a little background of how I conduct my praying in tongues sessions. So usually I set a schedule. So like every day, like a day before, I usually sit down and I write the things I want to do the following day. So basically how I'm going to run the following day, the things that need to be sorted, if I need to go to any place and all that. And so I also include the times I want to pray. So many times I do try to keep the time of prayer standard so that I pray during the same hour every day, so that it is something that I get used to as a routine. But there are some days that I get so many activities that interrupt me to the point that I can't have my prayers at the usual prayer time. So during those kind of days, of course, I have to adjust my prayer times, either move them further or sooner. So depending on the activities I have on a particular day. Now, today, when I was praying in tongues, today I had set myself to pray in tongues for 2 sessions. And actually, I managed to pray in tongues for 2 sessions. So the first session was immediately after I wake up, and so that was easy. Then, of course, the second one was late at night because I had quite a busy day. So I had to push my prayer towards the end of the day. Now, I had both of those sessions, and actually right now it is, I've just come from the very last session that I had set at night. So I'm actually recording this video at night. My name is Augustine, and this channel is Men Must Pray. And on this channel, I do talk mostly about praying in tongues. So if you love praying in tongues, of course, you're welcome to subscribe if you are not already subscribed. Also, this work relies on your donations. So I will leave details on the screen as well as in the description. You can send your donation if you love this work that I do and you would like to support it. Now, when I was praying today, I remembered some time back where I had this question, like I was praying in tongues, and then this question came to my mind. Augustine, for how long will you be praying? So it was a question that was asking me, like, how consistent will I be with prayer? Because I had never really thought about it. And that question just popped out of me. Of course, I know it was most likely the Holy Spirit or God wanted me to think about it. And you see, at that time, I was still a young man. I'm still a young man at this point, but I was much younger at that time. So what happened was I began thinking about my future. And I was thinking about my future and saying, how will I maintain my prayer life and my prayer routine into the future? Because I began to understand that the older I grow, there will definitely be more activities coming up, more responsibilities coming up, and I will need to step up into those responsibilities and whatnot and whatnot and whatnot. And then I was saying, when those activities and responsibilities increase, how will I maintain my prayer life? How will I maintain praying? And so the first thing that I did was, at that time, I decided to increase my prayer time. So my thinking was let me try and compensate and pray as much as I can when I still have the time. But while I was doing that, I had now a long-term plan that I came up with, and that was to try and sustain a healthy prayer life to try and sustain a prayer life all through my life, very consistently without failing. And so that's when I began thinking about what is the best lifestyle that I can live that will allow me time to pray and not restrict me. And so that's when I began thinking about the possible routes I can take in terms of like career and like the place to live and things like marriage and whatnot, raising a family and all those things. I wanted to kind of form a lifestyle that has room for prayer. And so I began doing that when I was that young, and I just continued thinking about it and praying and praying and praying and praying. And then the Lord began revealing to me how I can like organize my life so that I always have time to pray. And that has continued to this day. So even as I speak now, of course, I am still living that lifestyle of prayer. And every day I do get at least an hour or two of prayer, and I work very hard to make sure that I sustain this like the time of prayer that I have. There are many activities that usually come up as I have grown older. I have realized there are very many responsibilities that also come with growing older. But you see, just from that question that the Lord asked me some time back and the promise I made to myself to try and sustain prayer in my life, I have managed to keep myself in lane. And now, this is something that came to my mind and I thought about talking about it because I know there are many of you who may be in a place where you are struggling to find time to pray, or maybe sometimes you are not consistent with prayer. Some days you pray in tongues, some days you don't pray in tongues, probably because of many activities of life. Now, this is what like really helps me to make prayer part of my routine. It was a change of my mindset, and it changed my mind from seeing prayer as an event, and I started seeing prayer as a lifestyle. Now, there are people that I know, and some of them are even my friends, I know them, who see prayer as an event. Like prayer is a way of like fixing things. So prayer is more like a tool for them to fix things. So for them, the more things need to be fixed, the more motivation they get to pray. The less things they have to fix, the less motivation they have to pray. And that is a very bad way of approaching prayer, because that means that your prayer actually depends on your circumstances. But what you need to do is you need to change prayer so that it becomes a lifestyle and not an event. A lifestyle whereby you say, I want to pray so that I form a relationship with God. And so you just set time to pray because prayer is good. You pray because the Bible says pray without ceasing. You pray because in Luke 18 verse 1, Jesus says what? That we ought to pray and not give up. So that whether you are praying whether you are praying to fix things or whether you have nothing to fix because God has fixed everything, you still have a reason to pray because it has just become your lifestyle. So the aim of, like the long-term aim of you praying in tongues should be to turn it into a lifestyle so that you just pray and you just enjoy praying itself, not necessarily what you get from praying. Because trust me, from the many years I have been praying, there are times when you pray and get the things you are praying for. There are times you pray and you don't get the things you are praying for. Sometimes you pray and feel like you are having a breakthrough. Other times you pray and things are very dry. But you see, what will enable you continue praying and not give up is very simple. If you chose prayer to be a lifestyle, take an example of something like I love using a thermometer. A thermometer is a very good tool. You see, a thermometer, it measures the temperature based on it is the nature of the thermometer to measure temperature. It is not that a thermometer will measure temperature when you look at it or when you switch it on. It is always working. It is always showing the temperature, whether somebody is looking or is not looking. So it is the lifestyle of the thermometer to show temperature. So it is the same thing that, like the same attitude that we need to have, such that it is our nature to pray, because we are believers, we are children of God, and it is how we communicate with God, through prayer. So we just pray and continuously pray and continuously pray. So one of the things I did was I began by setting time to pray. So I said I will try and be praying every day, like allocate like an hour every day of just prayer, at least an hour every day of prayer. So whether I will feel good that day to pray or I don't feel like praying, whether prayers will flow that day or I'll struggle, I just make sure that at least I pray and cover at least an hour of prayer. So I did that for very many months and very many days. And it got to a point whereby it is now just like a second nature. It's like whether things are difficult or whether things are good, I just flow through because my system is just used to praying. And actually, like today, I had set 2 hours of prayer. But then when it got to evening hours, like I was to pray like 1 hour in the morning, then 1 hour in the evening. So the morning hour, that was easy. But the evening hour, of course, I was a bit tired. So I said, let me cut it down to 30 minutes. And so I decided and said, I'll just pray for 30 minutes instead of the 1 hour. So I was partly breaking the rules that I had set. But you know what happened? When I began praying, I prayed for like 20 minutes and then I just got the flow. And then that feeling of being tired just disappeared. Then I said, why should I pray for 30 minutes when I have the flow? Let me just do the full hour. So I eventually just did the full hour that I actually set. But you see, this is possible because it is something I've been doing over and over and over. And so sometimes even when I'm not in the mood, I can still push myself into the mood of prayer. Things will just flow. So that is what I wanted you to consider today, if you have not considered, so that you make at least prayer your lifestyle and not just an event that comes and goes. So that's it for today. God bless you.